Up the wars, and welcome to Wellywood Wargaming. My name is Damon, and in this video I'll be talking about one of the many campaign systems in the game of Necromunda. Now, I have previously done a video on the most recent and latest campaign system, which is the Underhells campaign. This one, though, we're going to be going right back to the beginning of everything and looking at the Dominion campaign today. The Dominion campaign is pretty much your bread and butter, most vanilla, but most common campaign system that you'll generally see in groups of Necromunda players. I would say it's the easiest to learn to understand, it's the easiest one to get to grips with, and many of the other campaign systems kind of come from this. So it's basically all about gaining and losing assets, in this case, in the Dominion campaign, territory. And that's pretty much the premise for the entirety of this campaign system. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how you use it and how you can adapt it to make it slightly better for your groups and whatnot, because of course Necromunda is one of those games where you can take little bits of each campaign and make the perfect campaign system. But the Dominion campaign is the most important starting place for us today. Once again, please do like, share, subscribe, and check out the Patreon as well if you'd like to support me further. Now, you can find the full rules for the Dominion campaign in the Necromunda core rulebook, which came out back in 2023. It's still valid, it still has all the stuff in it. It's a big chunky book, and it's definitely worth having if you want to play Necromunda, because you're going to need those rules. So go get it. The Dominion campaign is based around gangs fighting for territory and the control of territory. Each battle in the campaign is fought for the control of a territory, with the winner either gaining a new territory or holding on to the one they already have. Territories are features of the Underhive and the Ash Wastes, or wherever else you want to theme your Dominion campaign in, and they're worth something to the gangs, be that a set of old ruins that provide building materials, or a safe haven, or even a tech bazaar selling all manner of STC technology. There is always a fixed number of territories in each area you're fighting over in a Dominion campaign, and that is pretty much based on the numbers of players in your campaign. So, say for example, you have 8 players in your campaign, you're going to want to have at least double the amount of territories just so that there's something to fight over. Possession of a territory will always grant you some sort of boon as well as an income as well. So each time you work that territory in post-battle, you'll gain income from it and any other benefits the boons laid out in that territory possess. Additionally, every single gang that starts in a Dominion campaign comes with a settlement, and this is basically their gang hideout and where they recruit their new fighters from. In any campaign in Necromunda, it is absolutely crucial that one of the players, at least one of them anyway, steps up and acts as the Arbitrator. Now, I use this word quite a lot, Arbitrator. It basically means DM. It's kind of the dungeon master of the whole thing. This is the master of ceremonies, the person who organizes all the back of house stuff for the players to enjoy the campaign. This is usually going to be someone with a little bit of leadership and time on their hands to be able to actually do this properly. It's very hard trying to juggle life and full-time jobs and kids and stuff and be an arbitrator. I manage it somehow, but it is quite taxing. So sometimes it's best to maybe pair up with another player in your group and maybe share that responsibility. It's also quite nice that way to make decisions because there's 2 of you making them instead of just 1. So don't just put the onus on one person necessarily. Now, the person or persons who is acting as the arbitrator is responsible for the players pretty much having a good time. If the players aren't enjoying the campaign, something is wrong with the arbitration or the organization of the actual campaign itself. Always communicate with your players, always ask your players for feedback constantly as you go. It's never too late to change things. You can always steer things onto a better path. It's the arbitrator's responsibility to keep players informed about any of these changes, keep players informed about, life happens, so players drop in and drop out depending on their life circumstances and stuff. This is just something that happens. It's the arbitrator's responsibility to sort of fill in and just make sure that all the cogs are turning in the right direction and everything's working smoothly and everyone's having a good time. It's the arbitrator's responsibility to lay out start times and finish times, downtime and things like this for each campaign as well. And it's usually best, I would say, to have some sort of campaign document that's at least drawn up in a simple form that you can give out to all your players as an arbitrator. This is something that all your players can go and refer to. You can put it in a Google Drive or something and it'll be easy for everybody to access just so that they can check those rules in case of any ambiguity. I don't want to overcomplicate things too much here, but the Arbitrator is also responsible for making any sort of adjustments and changes to the actual campaign rules and mechanics. You can throw in some extra stuff, you can create some real narrative in there as well, and I highly suggest that people do, because that's really what makes Necromunda super fun. However, don't overcomplicate things too much, because it will put off new players, especially if there's just too much to learn. A Dominion campaign will always use all of the normal rules for everything else Necromunda, and that includes pre- and post-battle sequences, which is something that people need to stay on top of, and the Arbitrator needs to make sure that everyone's doing this right and correctly, and certainly not cheating at any point. To kick off the campaign, the first thing you'll need to do is make sure that every single gang in that campaign is ready and has the right amount of gang rating. 1,000 usually is the maximum, but you can change this if you like. And then you're going to assign them a territory. So not only do they get their settlement to start with in a Dominion campaign, you then give them a randomly assigned territory as well. Now, it's up to you which territories you use. You can use all of them. You can exclude some of them if you feel like they're a little bit broken or something, because some of them are, let's be honest. But then we're going to set the start and end dates and basically figure out from there who plays who as we kick off this campaign. Now, there is a little chart here that you get in the rulebook that gives you a sort of rough idea how many territories to players you're supposed to have, and really here, by the looks of it, it is 3 times the amount of players. So if you've got 3 players in your campaign, it is 9 territories that are generated. If you have got 8 players in your campaign, it is 24 territories that are generated, generally speaking. It doesn't have to be, but that's just a good starting point for the Dominion campaign. Now, the territories are generated in the following fashion. 1, for each house represented by a player's gang, take the cards for those territories that offer enhanced boons to gangs of that house and make a deck of them. Number 2, draw 1 territory from each of these house decks of cards and put them aside until step 5. 1 card is drawn no matter how many gangs there are from an individual house. So if you have multiple corridor, it's the same thing. Number 3, take all of the remaining cards, add the cards not drawn during step 1 back in, shuffle them together and draw a number of additional territories until the number of territories required for the campaign have been drawn. Number 4, all non-selected territories are discarded. And number 5, all of the selected territories are revealed to all of the players. Now, there are other ways to do this. You can do it with a deck of cards like that, which is pretty easy, especially if all your players are present. However, a bunch of adults getting together, especially when you've got kids, can be tricky. Usually someone misses out at some point. So you can do this over Discord, in a WhatsApp group, in a Facebook group as well. I highly recommend any campaign that you run in Necromunda as an Arbitrator, you have somewhere you can chat, or even a bot where you can roll dice as well. We use Discord, and we have a bot that has a dice tower in it as well, which is really handy for doing stuff like this remotely. We then have a little table where all of the Dominion or standard Dominion campaign territories are actually keyed to a card, whether it's the 3 of spades being the Stinger Mold Sprawl or the 9 of diamonds being the Refuse Drift. They're all there laid out for you, so you can just use a deck of cards like mentioned before. Issuing and accepting challenges. This is pretty much how things go down once the Dominion campaign starts. Each player will issue or accept or refuse, sometimes, challenges, and this is how it goes. During each cycle, each player may issue 1 challenge to another gang to do battle over control of a territory nominated by the challenger. In the first campaign cycle, challenges are made in a random order, so you just challenge whoever, whenever, wherever, wherever. In later cycles, they are made by ascending order of gang rating, starting with the gang with the lowest gang rating. This is quite a nice, almost like a balancing mechanic. So the lowest gang rating gets to go first in terms of who they want to challenge. And this gives you some sort of tiny little bit of a step up in terms of the lot of general balance of things. Doesn't help that much though. During the occupation phase, this first phase, the challenger is the one who decides which territory, which unclaimed territory is being fought over, and that is the one we do battle for. If there are no uncontrolled territories at this point, which there should be right at the beginning, then you may choose one of the territories owned by the gang that you are challenging, and you will fight over that. And the winner of this game will get the new territory. So the challenger, if they win, they'll get the territory. If it's a draw, no territory. If it's a loss, no territory either. Now, instead of challenging for a territory, if one of your fighters has been captured in any of these scenarios. You don't have to challenge for a territory. Instead, you can play the rescue mission as well, which is quite a nice narrative and fluffy way of doing things. It's quite a good mission, that as well. There are other similar rescue missions that you can also throw into the mix. One with a public execution, which I particularly like as well. But these are just nice little ways of, not necessarily just straight fighting for a territory every single time. Now, when you are challenged by a challenging gang, if you decline, you will just automatically lose that territory. So you can totally decline. If your gang is in a bad way, all of your fighters are missing and you're just going to lose that game. You can be a chicken and you can decline. Personally, I would never decline. I'm always brave. But if you do decline, it's absolutely no problems, but you will just hand over that territory for free. In terms of scenario selection, there are many ways you can do this, but the recommended way of doing it in a Dominion campaign is as follows. We do actually have a table here in the rulebook, and you can roll 2d6 to figure out which of the scenarios you're going to play. At 2 to 3, the player with the greater number of territories chooses which scenario to play. If both players have the same number of territories, the winner of a roll-off chooses which scenario to play. We've then got 4 to 5, play the border dispute or fuel hunt scenarios. Note these are for Ash Waste Dominion campaigns as well. So basically, if you're using vehicles or not, that really is the distinction between those two scenarios. You've also got 6 to 7, play the smash and grab or settlement raid. Again, no vehicles, or should I say Underhive, and then Ash Wastes. We then have 8 to 9, play the trap or cargo run scenario. Same thing there. And 10 to 12, the player with the fewer territories chooses which scenario to play. If both players have the same number of territories, the winner of a roll-off chooses which scenario to play. Now, the Dominion campaign specifically is broken down into two main parts with a period of downtime. And I'll go through what downtime is in a second, but the first two parts are the occupation phase, which is usually 3 cycles. Cycles are Terran weeks, I think, most of the time. We then have downtime, which is for 1 cycle, and then another 3-cycle takeover phase at the end there as well. And these two phases with downtime in the middle all have different meanings for the running of the Dominion campaign. So the first phase, the occupation phase, is where all of the gangs start spreading out and laying claim to all those unclaimed territories in the Dominion campaign so far. It is a race to get the most of these territories, because more of the territories you get, the more income, the more boons you gain before you go into the next phase. After those first 3 cycles of the occupation phase, you then have something called downtime. Now, this is a theme in pretty much every single Necromunda campaign. Downtime pops up at least once, sometimes twice if you're playing in the Underhells campaign. Downtime usually has the same meaning though. This is a period of rest for the gangs. So what happens is all of your fighters recover from being injured. So if they are in recovery, you can remove them from recovery and they are back to normal. You also have your captives being returned as well. So if you do have a bunch of hostages held by another gang, they are returned to your gang for free. Then all of your experienced juves and prospects are promoted. And lastly, you can do some fresh recruitment. So this is where you buy some new fighters, whether they are juves, brutes, hangers-on, whatever you like. This is where you do your recruitment in downtime. In terms of that recruitment, every gang during downtime or at the start of downtime gets 250 credits. This is standard for a Dominion campaign. It does change depending on the other campaigns. Sometimes there is less money, sometimes there is more, but you get 250 credits here to spend on new equipment from their gang equipment list, or to recruit new fighters, vehicles, and or hangers-on. These credits must be spent now and cannot be added to the gang's stash. Gangs may supplement these credits with extra credits from their stash. So this can't be added to your stash, but your stash can be added to this for recruitment purposes. The last phase, the last 3 cycles, is the takeover phase, and here's where things get a little bit testy. The occupation phase was all about claiming those unclaimed territories. By this point in the takeover phase, everybody has those territories. So really here, you're not fighting for any unclaimed territories. You're literally just taking them off each other for the whole 3 cycles. So this is brutal. This is where it gets personal. This is where you really do single out those people that you really want to get the territories from and ruin the other gangs around you, hopefully in the process. Now, what Games Workshop have done with their campaign systems for Necromunda is quite nice. They've basically meant that there is no overall winner here in the Dominion campaign, or in any campaign for that sort of matter. there are different types of winner, and these are split down into different things, and there's a little table here as well, which is quite nice, and they've given a name for all of them. The first one is the Dominator, and this is the person who gets the most territories at the campaign. Basically the real winner. The next one, and second best to the real winner, is the Slaughterer, and this is the person who gets the most fighters out of action. Now, just worth noting before I go into this in any more detail, this is quite a nice thing to do if you're an arbitrator, to actually have a prize or maybe a little certificate you can make up for each of these ones if you have time to do it. Because I think, you know, the person who wins the most territories is not necessarily going to be the same person who wins or takes the most fighters out of action. So it's just worth noting that there. I think it's a nice thing to do for your players, or maybe just a little prize or something. Buy them a pint, I don't know. But that's good. That's the Slaughterer anyway. Most enemy fighters taken out of action, and that's a pretty good one. If you're playing Corpse Grinders or something, that's the one you're going to be looking for, right? The next one is Creditor. So this is the person with the largest wealth accumulated by the end of the campaign. Your wealth is not your gang rating. Your wealth is your gang rating added to your stash and everything else. So it's all basically everything combined. That's how much you have got. The next one is the Warmonger, so the most battles fought. This is a little bit of a tricky one because some people, say if you've got 8 players in your campaign, like I have right now, some people are more readily available than others because they have less going on in their personal lives and their work life. So that, I feel like, isn't sometimes fair. Some people have to travel further to play games. Some people work nights. So factor this one in. I just feel like this one is not, you know, if everyone's on an even keel, fine, but otherwise it can be a bit tricky. The last one is the Power Broker, and this is the gang with the highest rep. Again, you can have a really, really high rep, but you can still lose a lot of your games based on the scenarios that you play and other factors around the game. So your rep can ebb and flow and go up and down. Generally speaking, if you're winning lots, your rep goes up quite steadily. But not necessarily. It really does depend on other things, house favors, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you might throw into your Dominion campaign. Here's a little thing on side battles. So during downtime, you don't just not play. You can totally still play games, but they are known as side battles. What you do with side battles is you don't gain any income from these. It's really important that you only take the 250 credits that you take from downtime recruitment, and you don't add loads of extra onto that, because there's already a problem, in my opinion, with the Dominion campaign giving too much money to Necromunda in general, but that's another conversation. Side battles can be played. No income, however, you do still accrue injuries and, of course, XP as well. So it's a double-edged sword there. Yes, you're getting more experience, but you could potentially get more fighters killed or injured. What I'm not going to do in this video is bore you by going through every single Dominion territory in the game. What I will do, though, is just pick a couple out and just explain how the boons and the income work in these. Let's have a look at the Rogue Dock Shop here. Now, this has an income, and it also has a boon here as well. In this case, a recruitment option, and it is as follows. The territory here in question gives you D6 times 10 credits each time you collect income from it. It also gives you 1 free Rogue Dock hanger-on for your gang as well while you hold this territory. So a pretty good one there. A free Rogue Dock worth, I think, 50 credits. Let's have a look at another one quickly, something a little bit different here. We have the Sludge Sea. This is the 6 of diamonds. Effluent and polluted water drains down through the hive to catch in brown pools, forming lakes of fuming iridescent sludge. Sounds absolutely charming. Now, this one gives you a territory boon as follows. This territory grants the following boon: equipment. Whilst it controls this territory, 3 fighters in the gang gain choke gas grenades for free. Note, however, that even though you get choke gas grenades on 3 of your fighters, you don't get any income for this one. So it's really swingy. Some of the territories give you fantastic boons. Some of them give you new equipment. Some of them give you new fighters. Some of them give you new recruitment as well, like new juves and things like that as well. But generally speaking, most of them will give you an income as well. So in summary, the Dominion campaign is definitely the best place to start for a new group of Necromunda players. I would always recommend to start with the Dominion campaign because it's the most simple. It's the easiest to get your head around. There isn't any real complexity to it. Is it the best campaign system? Absolutely not. But it is most definitely the best place to start with. Then I think once you've played through your first Dominion campaign, you can figure out what you like and don't like about this and maybe add bits of other campaigns, play a whole new campaign system, maybe the Uprising one, the Outcast one, or even the Underhells one as well, which all have, you know, varying differences there compared to the Dominion campaign. But like I said, I think start with the Dominion campaign, start small, and then you'll be able to figure out if you really like it or not and what to change in future. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. I will be back with another video on the next campaign system real soon. In the meantime, please do like, share, subscribe, and I will be back very soon. Peace out.